Tonight, House of Representatives summons NNPC GMD, CBN Governor and Minister of Finance, among others, to appear at public hearing probing the volume of daily local consumption of fuel in the country. Participants at the ongoing National Oil and Gas Summit in Abuja brainstorm on the future of fossil fuel in the global energy mix. Gunmen kill policeman, kidnap foreigner in Kwara State as kidnapped Catholic priest Reverend Father Emmanuel Silas regains freedom in Kaduna. Two ministers, Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid, resigned from UK cabinet over Prime Minister Boris Johnson's leadership style.
On business news tonight, federal government announces restructuring of Kano, Kaduna, Ibadan, Benin and Port Harcourt electricity distribution companies.
On sports news tonight, Britain's Cameron Norrie will take on six-time champion Novak Djokovic for a place in the Wimbledon final as both players survive thrilling 5 sets against their quarter-final opponents.
And from Abuja, owners of parks and gardens in the nation's capital lament as FCT authorities enforce closure of activities at the facilities by 7 p.m. daily.
The quest to definitively determine the exact volume of fuel consumed daily by Nigeria has been taken up a notch as the House of Representatives has now summoned the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, the NNPC GMD, CBN Governor, and the Minister of Finance following their failure to appear at a public hearing today. They were meant to provide accurate industry figures and insight to the ad hoc committee set up last Wednesday following discrepancies raised by the House, which ranges from 45 million to 100 million litres of petrol per day. The Deputy Majority Leader, Peter Patterson, who represented the Speaker of the House at the hearing, says they are disappointed that such critical stakeholders will choose to be absent at such an important hearing.
It is the volume of consumption that determines how much subsidy that you have to pay with Nigerian government funds. Huge sums of money are being spent on subsidy payments. Nigerians don't know how much fuel we are consuming that warrants the payment of such humongous, amounts. I know NNPC, hardly absent itself from this kind of, investigative hearing. And they wrote a letter which is quite commendable. But it's appalling that such letter will come in at this point. And there was no single, representative from the company that came to explain why the company cannot do it before submitting the letter. That is not fair. That is not fair. How much more CBN? They pay this money, Ministry of Petroleum Resources. Who else will believe? Who on earth will believe that the Ministry of Petroleum Resources will not be present here and will not send any message? Ministry of Finance. So we want to see this attempt by critical stakeholders to absent themselves from this investigative hearing as an attempt to frustrate the effort of the committee. And the Parliament, will not take it lightly.
President Muhammadu Buhari has described the outgoing Secretary General of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, Muhammadu Barkindo, as a worthy ambassador of the country. He told Mr. Barkindo at the presidential villa in Abuja that posterity will remember him kindly for making the nation and himself proud during his 6 years of meritorious service at the helm of affairs as the 4th OPEC Secretary General from Nigeria.
The 28th Secretary General of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, Mr. Mohamed Barkindo, is received by the President in the Council chamber on Tuesday as he marks the end of his tenure at the global oil cartel. The COVID-19 pandemic and the attendant crisis in the oil and gas industry during the tenure of the OPEC scribe is acknowledged by the President.
Your time in charge of affairs of OPEC has been a very challenging time for the global oil industry. Oil producers were finding it difficult to come together to address the challenges that was crippling the oil market.
Mr. Barkindo is the fourth Nigerian to be appointed the Secretary General of the cartel. Late Chief Meshak Fayide is the first Nigerian to occupy the office in 1975. Former Minister of Petroleum Resources, late Dr. Rilwan Lukman, occupied the position on two different occasions, with the first being in 1986 and the second in 1995. In January 2006, the Amanayebo of Nembe Kingdom in Bayelsa State, His Royal Highness King Edmond Dakoru, was appointed into the position. During his 6-year reign, the OPEC scribe had birthed the declaration of cooperation among OPEC and non-OPEC oil-producing countries. He believes this is what helped him navigate the turbulent times in the global oil and gas industry.
Whatever we have been able to achieve in the last 6 years was also as a result of the teamwork with my colleagues in the OPEC Secretariat in Vienna. I have learned from your experience. I tried to follow your large footsteps. We built a very strong team, and we continued to move despite the turbulence.
He is confident that OPEC is in the final lap of restoring the production figures owing to a rebound in the global market and economy. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And to electoral matters, Nigeria's main opposition, the People's Democratic Party, has begun a mass campaign to mobilize citizens to register for their permanent voter card to enable them vote in the forthcoming general elections with the assurance that their votes will count. Members of the PDP National Working Committee who led the rally in Abuja say they are confident in the country's electoral process and urge citizens to get their voter cards before the 2023 general election.
It's unlike every other day at the Legacy House of the People's Democratic Party in Abuja, as members of the party dress in branded t-shirts and face caps for a rally to sensitize residents of the FCT on the need to acquire their permanent voter cards and vote in the forthcoming general elections. The leadership of the PDP says it is embarking on this campaign because the party believes strongly that votes will count in 2023.
Collect your voter's card. Don't go home and dump them in your cupboards or in your drawers or in your wardrobes. Bring them out during elections and go out there to vote, because every vote counts in Nigeria today.
Those who have not registered to take the window now that are available by INEC to go ahead, come out en masse and register and pick up the permanent voter's card. The vote in 2023 will count, so we will be going to all the area councils in Abuja to mobilize Nigerians and say, enough is enough of the APC.
Filing into the streets in motorcades, members of the PDP distribute flyers as they go, urging residents to get registered and vote in 2023. The party is confident that it will win the forthcoming general elections, both at the federal and state level.
It's very sure for us, because if you look at what is happening today in the country, the party that is in power today have actually failed Nigerians. Things are not the way it used to be when PDP was in power, and we are sure, we are very confident that this time around PDP will take over.
By the time we finish this exercise, we will tell Nigerians will know that people are still ready. Abuja here is for PDP, every other state they are for PDP.
Apart from the campaign to get registered and vote, there is also the advocacy against vote buying.
Don't collect the money. If they force you to collect the money, still vote against them. Vote them out. It is our money, the money they have stolen. If they give you the money, collect the money, vote them out. They have no future for this country.
Vote buying is a major problem in Nigeria's election, even though it remains a punishable offense in the country's electoral laws. A challenge many hope the law enforcement agencies will brace up to deal with in the 2023 general elections.
And to security, a policeman has been killed and a Chinese national kidnapped after gunmen attacked a quarry in Shao, Moro local government area of Kwara State. The gunmen also burnt a vehicle said to have been used in the operation before leaving the scene. The police public relations officer in the state, Okasomi Ajayi, while commiserating with the family of the slain officer, says the command has launched an operation to ensure the victim is rescued and the perpetrators of the act apprehended. To some cheer news, barely hours after he was kidnapped by gunmen, the parish priest of St. Charles Catholic Church, Zambina, Kaduna State, Reverend Father Emmanuel Silas, has been released. According to the Chancellor of Kafachan Catholic Diocese, Reverend Father Emmanuel Okolo, the victim was released in the late hours of Monday, but he was silent on whether or not ransom was paid to secure his release. Reverend Father Silas was kidnapped in the early hours of Monday at the rectory of the parish in Kauru local government area. Staying with security, an officer with the Naval Headquarters Abuja, Musa Lawal, has been kidnapped in Kogi State. According to reports, about 5 armed men invaded his residence located behind post-flood housing estate in the state capital, Lokoja, and took him away while his car was destroyed. Meanwhile, his wife, Juliana Musa, who says her husband was injured and bleeding while being taken away, adds that the abductors are demanding 3 million naira as ransom. In the meantime, the police in the state says they are working in collaboration with the Navy to rescue the officer. Well, away from security, the UN Women, an organization of the United Nations focused on mainly women's issues, is partnering with WIMBIZ and various global charities to draw attention to challenges facing rural and urban women. During a roundtable dialogue with female chief executive officers and board chairpersons in Lagos, participants discussed the need to compel women in leadership positions to do what they can to impact lives in their immediate environment. Our correspondent, Amarachi Bani, tells us more.
In any given community, there are roughly an equal number of male and female. However, women are usually sidelined, their needs overlooked, and their ambitions ridiculed. At the roundtable dialogue with female chief executive officers and board chairpersons, hosted by WIMBIZ, discussions are driven by women for women.
WIMBIZ, over the past, I think, 5 years, under all our former executive council chairpersons, have really worked closely together with the United Nations women on so many different projects around women economic empowerment, around women in politics, that we have had so many forums, so many dialogues. But I think I want to appreciate Mrs. Beatrice. When she came, one of the things she said was that her first assignment in Nigeria is to meet with the female CEOs and board chairs in Lagos.
If you don't consider a block critical, then you do not wait. And the reason that the system will think the women are not critical enough is because women are playing in silos. The day we decide that we're critical and we want to play the critical power in a united front, we will change things.
The UN Women Country Representative to Nigeria and ECOWAS begins her presentation with a true life story of Tabila, who married as a child.
This is Tabila. Can we continue? As I let you know, her name is Tabila. She dropped out of school at the age of 13 to go for marriage. Let's go past that. And at the time, they were deciding whether they should allow her to, she should go to marriage. The father was like, what is it? Why is it important to send a girl to school? And obviously, she gets married so that they take the dowry, they send the boy child to school. These stories, you all know them. And now she was forced to marry this old man who could be her father. And as time goes on, she becomes pregnant. But before that, her dream of becoming a nurse just went away because there was really no way she had to obey. They didn't even ask her choice. They didn't even ask her decision. They just decided for her that she has to go. And this continues still today. It's continuing. It's not like it has stopped. It is still there.
As this is a dialogue, participants share experiences, comments, and to-do lists.
One thing I'm going to say to all of us this morning, wherever we find ourselves, let's explore whatever opportunities are there.
The mothers of sons, and the way you bring up your son will determine how he becomes a man.
A call to action is easy, The real work begins when fulfilling commitments made on the next steps. Amarachi Ubani, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, highlights of the ongoing National Oil and Gas Summit in the nation's capital. Plus, owners of parks and gardens in the nation's capital lament as FCT authorities enforce closure of activities at the facilities by 7 p.m. daily. That's in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Ahead of House of Representatives summons NNPC GMD, CBN Governor and Minister of Finance, among others, to appear at public hearing, probing the volume of daily local consumption of fuel in the country. Participants at the ongoing National Oil and Gas Summit in Abuja brainstorm on the future of fossil fuel in the global energy mix. Gunmen kill policeman, kidnapped foreigner in Kwara State as kidnapped Catholic priest Reverend Father Emmanuel Silas regains freedom in Kaduna. And 2 ministers, Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid, resign from UK cabinet over Prime Minister Boris Johnson's leadership style. But as the world continues to battle balances in energy demand and supply, OPEC Secretary General Muhammadu Barkindo says growth in production can only happen when national oil companies have predictable and unfettered access to investment capital. Speaking at the ongoing Oil and Gas Forum in Abuja, Mr. Barkindo goes on to advocate for the development of new technologies, the strengthening of human capacity and innovation in order to meet the world's growing need for energy, amongst others.
It's a powerhouse of oil and gas thought leaders, government functionaries, CEOs, the OPEC leadership, operators, project promoters, financiers, policymakers, and the list goes on. There are no doubts to the current challenges of global energy needs, demands, supply, and more worrisome, the pushback against fossil fuel production and funding. That volatility is a big talking point at this forum, and the numbers are there. Here are some from the Secretary General of OPEC.
The global oil sector will need cumulative investments of about $11.8 trillion in the upstream, in the midstream, and the downstream through to 2045 to meet current and future demand. Oil is expected to retain the largest share of the energy mix, accounting for just over 28% share in 2045, followed by gas at around 24%. These developments increase the urgency of eradicating another pandemic, which is the energy poverty.
Nigeria recognizes these and is engaging the outcomes, but have also a balancing strategy to comply with transition energy talks and at the same time address our energy poverty.
The federal government is providing a lot of enablers which are needed to realize the full potential of the gas sector. This includes the development of critical infrastructure and systems such as the OB3 gas pipeline, the AKK gas pipeline, the Nigeria Gas Transportation Network Code. The Nigerian Gas Transportation Network Code provides streamlined operational and fiscal terms for third-party use of gas distribution and transmission infrastructures. The Petroleum Industry Act further provides new and attractive terms for participation in the Nigerian oil and gas sector.
As it comes. NNPC Limited, the soon-to-become Africa's most capitalized company, is inviting partnerships, financing, in the face of what it sees as a line-up of positive return on investment opportunities.
In our conversation with our partners, we continue to emphasize that our key role is to make sure that we are able to bring gas available to our country and make it available to the world. And fortunately for all of us in this room and outside this room, that the world needs gas. And our most recent engagements have shown that the world is crying for our gas. And this is a perfect opportunity for all of us to take in this industry and this sector, so that we can make the money of today, also create the prosperity of today for our people.
A clearly developing conversation, and one which these heads say they will carry on to Egypt at COP27. Nigeria is leading that charge. She wants her voice a space on the table of global transition energy discourse. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Well, for more on the news at 10, let's head over to our Abuja studio where Markwe Oguyusuf is standing by with more stories. Hello, Markwe. It looks like a major clampdown on some activities of parks and gardens in the nation's capital.
Indeed, Kayode, a barrage of lamentations lead our bulletin here tonight as the Federal Capital Territory Administration has commenced the enforcement of the ban on the sale of alcohol in parks and gardens, as well as the closure of the parks at 7 p.m. During the enforcement of the park policy, the monitoring and enforcement team of the FCT, who came with security personnel, forcibly locked up the premises of some of the parks visited as various vendors abandoned their goods in a bid to evade arrest.
The mood of some of the operators of the parks is sober as they lament the enforcement of the ban on the sale of alcohol in parks and the compulsory closure of parks and gardens in the city by 7 p.m. Some of the operators are already feeling the heat of the loss to their businesses.
Too much money, sir. And the workers are bitter because some of them came from far places, going back without transport. We're going to downsize workers, that is what.
I don't know why they are taking this decision. If only I had known, I would have said, okay, let me plead. But I don't know, I don't have any idea, you understand? So the only thing we need to do is just to abide.
The park owners have already approached the FCT High Court, seeking to stop the enforcement of the FCT park policy, which was signed in November 2005.
The decision of this park policy was a policy signed in November 2005 by ex-President Olusegun Obasanjo when he was President and Commander-in-Chief. The FCT had a park policy and he signed that policy, and the policy stipulates 7 p.m. closing time for parks and gardens across the city. The FCTA, through the Parks and Recreation Department, have been engaging with the park operators for the past years, and now we decided that we actually discuss this and enforce compliance so that parks will be closing by 7 o'clock.
However, discussions are underway to come up with a solution on the matter.
An out-of-court settlement conversation are ongoing. There is no court injunctions now. Even this morning, we met this morning at a very expanded meeting where we have members of the civil society organization, members of the NUJ and the park operators. We all sat together this morning and they are appealing for 10 p.m. closing time, while we are saying, okay, the 7 p.m. closing time is what is bringing the heat. We'll go back and communicate to Minister Malam Mohammed Musa Bello to see his final decision on the matter.
It is expected that the situation will be brought under control as soon as possible, in order to ensure that the impact does not further worsen the economic situation in the country.
We're talking law now. The Acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, is advocating the need for continuous training of judges on issues of maritime adjudication and admiralty law at the 16th International Maritime Seminar for Judges in Abuja. Justice Ariwola says a national policy on justice lays emphasis on regular training, which adds value to the judicial system. Justice Ariwola enjoins judges to equip themselves with new knowledge in the area of admiralty law and the use of technology in the resolution of maritime disputes.
It's the 16th International Maritime Seminar for Judges, organized by the Nigerian Shippers Council. The hall is filled to capacity as judges from across the Federation converge in Abuja for the biennial seminar. The chairman of the organizing committee and chief judge of the Federal High Court, Nigeria, sets the tone for the seminar.
The laws of the land and of the sea are constructed fundamentally differently. In a sense, water changes everything.
The administrator of the National Judicial Institute and the chairman of the occasion take turns to address the participants.
In order to put participants on the stronger footing, just as this forum would be having presentation on the security of maritime domain as well as case management.
The seminar provides a specialized forum for the judicial officers to be equipped with requisite skill and knowledge as a means to efficient and effective judicial resolution of maritime causes.
With goodwill messages from the Chief Justices of Ghana, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Kenya and Liberia, the Acting Chief Justice of Nigeria harps on the importance of speedy adjudication of maritime matters and continuous training for judges.
Let me stress here that the national policy on justice lay emphasis on continuous training as one of the critical elements that guarantees the independence of the judiciary.
On his part, the Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Shippers Council appreciates the judges for their role in justice administration.
They conceived of the idea of what has now become the International Maritime Seminar for Judges, gave birth to it, midwifed it, nurtured it, and today his presence as the chairman of the occasion is the climax of a personal achievement of the lofty endeavor he started.
As the industry arbiter, it is the mandate of the Nigerian Shippers Council to ensure that judicial officers, legal and maritime practitioners, as well as legal advisors and in-house counsel working in the public and private sectors of the economy are abreast of contemporary issues in this special area of the law, which has to do with adjudication on maritime matters.
Still ahead on the news at 10. Federal government announces restructuring of Kano, Kaduna, Ibadan, Benin and Port Harcourt electricity distribution companies. That's some business news. Do join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. In the south of the country, Governor Nyesom Wike's efforts at improving the welfare and relationship between the state legislators and the executive arm of government has received the commendation of some National Assembly members. The Senate Minority Leader, Philip Aduda, and the Chairman Senate Committee on Judiciary, Okweyemi Bamidele, applauded the governor after joining top officials to inspect the state legislative quarters being built by the Wike-led administration in Port Harcourt, Rivers State.
A week after inspecting the progress of work at the Port Harcourt Law School campus, the Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike is on another round of inspection. This time, 32 units of 4-bedroom duplex legislative quarters is being constructed for members of the State House of Assembly in Port Harcourt. His entourage comprises the Senate Minority Leader, Philip Aduba, the Chairman, Senate Committee on Judiciary, Okweyemi Bamidele, among top officials who are received by the state legislators.
There is a yawning gap between the development of today and what was here before as Assembly quarters. Your Excellency, on behalf of Rivers State House of Assembly, I thank you for this.
In their assessments, the federal lawmakers call for the preservation of the monumental achievements of the current administration and urge other states to follow suit.
We've gone around with His Excellency, the Governor, today. We've seen so many projects that are here, and we have seen the law school, and I'm excited to say that it is indeed a very wonderful edifice to behold. And we have come here, we've seen the legislative quarters. The legislative quarters is really fantastic.
I want to, on behalf of our committee and on behalf of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the National Assembly, congratulate the government and people of Rivers State, because this is truly an amazing development.
Just like the law school campus, the 10 billion naira legislative quarters will be commissioned and handed over for use as part of Governor Wike's efforts in improving infrastructure in Rivers State.
And that's all from Abuja. It's back now to you, Kayode.
Well, thanks a lot, Mark. Well, let's head over to Imo State now, where the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya, has been given insight into the recent unfortunate killing of Nigerian soldiers by bandits in Shiroro local government area of Niger State. Well, speaking at an interactive session with journalists in Owerri, the state capital, as part of activities to mark the 2022 Army Day celebration, the Army Chief says the soldiers had the option to retreat, but for the love of the nation, they fought gallantly and sacrificed their lives in defense of the nation. The Army Chief also read the riot act to bandits operating in the north. As part of activities to commemorate this year's Army Day celebration, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya, is in Owerri, the Imo State capital. His first port of call is the Government House, where he met with Governor Hope Uzodinma, and afterwards he joined some journalists and media executives for an interactive session.
At this point, may I crave the kind indulgence.
Fielding questions from the panelists, including Channels Television's Markwe Ogun Yusuf, the Army Chief gives insights to the situation surrounding the death of the soldiers recently killed by bandits in Shiroro local government area of Niger State.
See what happened there, sad attitude, but I was very proud of those troops, though they have paid the supreme price for what they did. You will need to know probably the quantum of the threat they saw there.
Lieutenant General Yahya also highlights the efforts of the Army in rescuing the remaining victims of the Abuja-Kaduna train abduction, as well as successes recorded in the war against insurgency and terrorism in the northeast.
Almost all the areas that were hitherto under the terrorists, we have gotten them back. Not only that, the return of maybe displaced people to their ancestral places, and that is also being done.
We're curious to know if the Nigerian Army, first of all, has a responsibility in that area, if it's doing what it can to get the people back, especially considering the President's directive.
Since the incident happened and the marching order by the President, we have been on it along with the two defense staff and other services on it. What I said is that one of the key is actionable information. We are working on it, and we are not being deterred, we are not resting on our oars, and by the grace of God we'll get there.
The Nigerian Army Day celebration is an annual event held on July the 6th in honor of members of the Nigerian Army, especially those that took part in the World War I and II, as well as those that lost their lives during the Nigerian Civil War. And some company news: winners have emerged in Unity Bank's Corepreneurship Challenge after pitching business plans at the event held at the National Youth Service Camp in Iseluku in Aniocha North Local Government Area of Delta State. Mr. Adekoke Hezekiah emerged winner, while Ebelolo Lucky and Toby Ruth came second and third, with a cash prize of 500,000 naira, 300,000 naira, and 200,000 naira, respectively. The Corepreneurship Challenge is Unity Bank's entrepreneurial development initiative for core members.
The National Youth Service Camp in Iseluku, Delta State comes alive as the Unity Bank Corepreneurship Challenge hits the state. The exercise is a business plan pitching competition for core members organized by Unity Bank in partnership with the National Youth Service Corps for skill acquisition and entrepreneurship development.
To my customers, these have been my dreams in my childhood.
One after another, selected corps members who had gone through an internal selection process pitched different business ideas in agriculture, information technology, and other fields. The event also features an exhibition. At the end of the day, winners in the different categories are rewarded with prizes.
They are ever ready to support us, to make us succeed together.
We're taken by the value that the guy sold. This is an individual that sold us a proposition that's sat on agriculture and sustainable business with propensity to employ people and scale the business.
The bank announces another window known as the Save and Win promo, designed to empower more core members in entrepreneurship and skill acquisition.
What qualifies them for that, every month, if they can, they will be able to save 9,000 naira for 3 months. It could be monthly. Those of them that have the capacity, people are different, they could actually do the lump sum for the first month, which qualifies them for, when that 3 months elapsed, it qualifies them for the raffle draw.
For the NYSC State Coordinator, the gesture is timely.
We have the Skill Acquisition and Entrepreneurship Development Program, where we teach them vocations, at least something to learn because unemployment is on the increase. No jobs out there. And so Unity Bank has come to our aid by helping in the funding option.
The Unity Bank NYSC corporatorship has been replicated in other states such as Lagos, Rivers, Bayelsa and the FCT. The bank hopes to sustain the program for the foreseeable future to empower more fresh graduates to become employers of labor.
For more business stories on the news at 10, here's Anne Oawado.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Kayode. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE, has announced the restructuring of the Kano, Ibadan, Benin, Kaduna and Port Harcourt electricity distribution companies in the country. The BPE's announcement follows Fidelity Bank's activation of the call on the collateralized shares of Kano, Benin and Kaduna discos over their inability to pay loans and repay them, loans obtained to pay for assets acquired in the 2013 privatization exercise. The BPE says the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCON, will be a placeholder board for the Ibadan Disco in a temporary capacity while the Port Harcourt Disco undergoes restructuring to prevent its imminent insolvency. According to the BPE, the new board for the affected discos has been approved and the Bureau is still working with the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Ministry of Power to ensure no service disruptions during the transition. And apart from that now, the Nigerian private sector remained in growth territory at the end of the second quarter, although recent challenges around cash shortages led to weaker new order growth and a renewed decline in output. The drop in private sector output in June ended 18 months of expansion. The rate of decline was only marginal, but contrasted the solid expansion seen in recent months as a result of business conditions improved at the weakest rate for almost a year and a half. Companies responded by raising their staffing levels, purchases and stocks of inputs. Stanbic IBTC Bank had softer rates in the month of June at 50.9 in June, coming down from 53.9 in the month of May. The headline PMI signaled the 24th successive monthly improvement in business conditions in Nigeria's private sector. The latest result was indicative of the weakest improvement for 17 months. The central to the moderation was a renewed contraction in output, which fell for the first time in 19 months. Although marginal overall, the latest fall contrasted with sharp expansions in recent months. Firms overwhelmingly blamed weaker inflows of new work, but there was also intentions of cash shortages. Month in a row, the rate of growth in Stanbic IBTC was marginal. It eased to the softest in its sequence, however, as elevated costs deterred from clients with placing orders. We head to the stock market where negative sentiment continued on the floor. Investors continued to take profit in big names. Laddie Williams has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Let's take a look at how your money performed today. And yes, profit-taking carries on in the local bourse, wiping out 111 billion naira. The activity chart is mostly red today, with just volume of stocks traded up about 234 million units, valued at 2.56 billion naira. And the all-share index sits at 51,586 points, down 0.40%, adding to the 7 basis point loss we saw yesterday. And it's a sea of red in the sectoral charts. The banking counter is down over 0.5%, with sell-offs with Tier 1 banking stocks like FBNH and Zenith Bank, with some other Tier 2 banking stocks also being sold off. And Boa Foods dragged the consumer goods index down also. We see that also in the red. All right, let's see the gainers of the day. Red Star Express PLC, that's in the Korean freight industry. Its share price closed at 2 naira 75 kobo, up about 10%. I guess investors, are happy. The company declared a group profit before tax of about 413.9 million naira for the year ended 31st March 2022. So investors are quite excited about that buying pressure in that stock. Well, meanwhile, international breweries led the losers counter, down 9.52%, also adding to the loss in the consumer goods counter we saw. Well, day 2, also in the red, 3 more days to go. Hopefully, we see some buying pressure at some point. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Ladi Williams. It's back to you.
That's Business News Tonight. Thanks for watching. It's back to you, Coyote.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial star 894 hash now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Well, thanks a lot, Anne. News just in has it that bandits have attacked the convoy of President Muhammadu Buhari in Katsina State, although the president was not in the convoy. According to presidential spokesman Garba Shehu in a statement, security operatives and an advance team were heading for Dora, Buhari's hometown, ahead of Salah, when they were attacked near Dusima in Katsina. He adds that the attack was repelled by presidential guards. However, 2 persons suffered minor injuries and are receiving treatment for the minor injuries they suffered. Meanwhile, the area commander of Dusima, ACP Aminu Umar, and another police officer have been killed during a clearance operation following a gun duel with bandits at Zaka Forest in Safana local government area of Katsina State. In a statement by the police spokesman, Gambo Issa, the incident occurred at about 11:30 a.m. following a distress call they received that terrorists numbering over 300 on motorcycles have attacked Zaka district. Again, bandits have attacked the convoy of President Muhammadu Buhari in Katsina State, although the president was not in the convoy. And on the foreign scene, the British Chancellor Rishi Sunak and the Health Secretary Sajid Javid have resigned from government, saying they no longer have confidence in Prime Minister Boris Johnson to lead the country. The resignations came minutes after the Prime Minister apologized for appointing MP Chris Pincher, who is facing a sexual misconduct allegation, to a government role. And elsewhere, Mayor of Highland Park, where a gunman opened fire on July the 4th festival in Chicago, says the suspect obtained his weapon legally, while the police say he planned the attack for several weeks. Well, Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US police have arrested a suspect after 6 people were killed in a mass shooting at an Independence Day parade in Highland Park in Illinois. This was the scene as spectators fled the shooting. Robert E. Cremo III climbed onto a roof, shooting randomly at spectators using a high-powered rifle at the event, which was scheduled to include floats, marching bands and community entertainment as part of the city's Independence Day celebrations. Mr. Cremo was detained after a manhunt. It is the latest mass shooting to hit the US. There has been one in every week of 2022.
Breaks my heart. The stories are already coming out, and some of them are just things that we'll never forget. It happened to these wonderful people who were just simply bringing their families out to watch a 4th of July parade. What an American day, what an American experience, and what American tragedy followed. And then, of course, one man, a man propelled by cowardice, who is exercising his violence and leaving a tragedy behind him that we're going to live with for a long, long time.
Hours later, and there was another shooting in the United States, this time at a fireworks display in Philadelphia. This the scene there of people running for their lives. 2 police officers were wounded and are in a stable condition in hospital.
If I had the ability to take care of guns, I would. But the legislature won't let us. The U.S. Congress won't let us. The governor does the best he can. Our attorney general does the best he can. But this is a gun country. It's crazy. We're the most armed country in world history, and we're one of the least safest.
NATO's 30 allies have signed an accession protocol for Finland and Sweden, allowing them to join the nuclear-armed alliance once parliaments ratify the decision, its most significant expansion since the 1990s.
For Finland,
flanked by the respective countries' foreign ministers, Jens Stoltenberg described it as a truly historic moment. The protocol means Helsinki and Stockholm can participate in NATO meetings and have greater access to intelligence, but they will not be protected by NATO's defence laws. Rescue teams have resumed the search for 13 climbers who are missing after part of a glacier gave way high in the Italian Alps on Sunday, killing at least 7 people. Hopes of finding survivors were fading more than 36 hours after a disaster that has fueled concerns about the impact of climate change on the mountains. 3 people from Czech Republic were among those unaccounted for. Sunday's avalanche took place on the Marmolada, which at more than 3,300 meters is the highest peak in the Dolomites, a range in the eastern Italian Alps straddling the regions of Trento and Veneto. About 50,000 people have been urged to evacuate their homes as floods hit Australia's largest city for the 3rd time this year. Parts of Sydney have received about 8 months of rain in 4 days. Roads have been cut off, some houses are underwater and thousands have been left without power. Widespread flooding across Australia, driven by a La Nina weather pattern, has killed more than 20 people this year, many in New South Wales. More than 100 evacuation orders have been issued across Greater Sydney for the current emergency. Spanish firefighters have battled a wildfire in Valencia, which destroyed more than 1,000 hectares of land. A change in weather conditions caused the fire to flare up again as westerly winds and low humidity fanned the flames. Emergency services said they were working to protect a natural park that is near the blaze. Spain's National Weather Agency said that the Valencia region will have storms and strong winds, which could complicate the situation. And finally, Mecca's crowded streets have provided Saudi shops and merchants with some much-needed relief as pilgrims return to the annual Hajj after 2 years of pandemic-related disruption. Saudi Arabia, home to Islam's holiest sites in Mecca and Medina, allowed up to 1 million foreign travellers this year to perform the Hajj after 2 years of limiting the pilgrimage to Saudi residents as the coronavirus outbreak halted global travel. Hajj is a once-in-a-lifetime duty for every able-bodied Muslim who can afford it, and it is a major source of income for the Saudi government and is the world's biggest religious gathering. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
And the main news again. Gunmen today attacked the advance team of President Muhammadu Buhari on their way to the president's hometown of Dora in Katsina State. The president was not in the convoy. Also, the House of Representatives today summoned the NNPC GMD, CBN Governor and Minister of Finance, among others, to appear at a public hearing probing the volume of daily consumption of fuel in the country after failing to honor its earlier invitation. And that's the news at 10 tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayodoki Kilu. Good night.